Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing? Give me a wave if you're doing good. Look at that. Only a few people didn't wave. Yay, now we're all waving. Okay, great. Thank you so much for joining us. It's July. Whoa. The corpse flower hasn't bloomed yet. Whoa. We have a very special guest today. Many of you know and love her, and I miss her very much. We have Jenn L coming to talk to us today. Yes, look, they're waving to you, Jenn. Hi, wave to Jenn. Yay. We're so excited. Yay. Jenn L was our horticulture interpretation specialist for many years, and she got an exciting new opportunity at Shaw Nature Reserve. So she's going to tell you just a little bit about what she's doing now, and we're so pleased that she was able to come and talk with us today. So please welcome our dear friend and colleague, Jenn L. Jenn, thank you.
Oh, thank you, guys. It's great to see all of you. As Andrea said, I have transferred out to Shaw. I am now the supervisor for visitor services out there. And I'm learning a lot. There's a lot to learn, but it's a lot of fun. Getting to know some of the new gates that they're putting in to kind of manage visitation flow out there a little better and get a better handle on our attendance numbers is kind of like the top priority right now. And understanding the admissions and memberships, and eventually I'll be taking over the retail for the gift shop at the visitor center. So pretty much a lot of my work is at the visitor center for Shaw Nature Reserve. And then I do work behind the scenes to make sure that our visitors have a positive and engaging experience during their time at Shaw Nature Reserve. So it's very exciting. It's a lot to learn, but I'm having a lot of fun out there. But it's great to still be part of the garden and come back and see all of you guys and to help however I can. So with that, I will get started on the presentation. So I'm talking about connecting with your audience, and it's kind of an overview of interpretation as a field of study and how you can apply some of those principles to your everyday interactions with our visitors. So let's get started. All right, so we say interpretation a lot around the garden. So what does that word mean to you?
Understanding of what you're looking at from your point of view.
Yeah. Teaching, explaining, right? And that all kind of goes into interpretation. Now, don't get intimidated, but this is a rather long definition. What it comes down to is that interpretation is a communication process that you can use to connect your visitors or your participants with the resource that you're talking about. So for us, it's the garden, and it's many sites and work projects, and we want to connect our visitors personally and emotionally and intellectually with the garden's work. And we do that every day with the conversations that we have with our visitors. So it's a very powerful communication tool, a very powerful way to connect with your visitors and make them feel personally invested in the garden and its work and all the wonderful, wonderful things that the garden does. So you're all familiar with the garden's mission to discover and share knowledge about plants and their environments in order to preserve and enrich life. And we do that every day. We share our messages with the visitors every day through tours, through the visitor engagement station, through Brookings, all the programs you guys sign up for. There's just a wide variety of ways that we can connect with our visitors every single day about the garden. So you guys are all familiar with the acronym that interpretation is poetry, right? Maybe. I see a few heads nod, yes. It's basically some things to remember when we're interacting with our visitors, and how to personally engage them and make them understand kind of what we're talking about and what we want them to take away from the interaction. So, who remembers what the P stands for in poetry? Yeah, you said personal? Yeah. And so, yeah, I don't remember either. So sorry, guys. Interpretation. The P in poetry stands for purpose. The personal comes in a little bit later. The second P, yeah. It's actually under a different word. So interpretation serves a purpose. Many of you are familiar with our interpretive plans. Each one has a theme that we're trying to convey to the visitors. And all of your interactions, our programs that you're presenting should point back to the mission of the garden. So all of it serves a purpose, and it's all relevant to the garden's mission. Now, before I catch myself on this next one, who remembers what the O stands for? And there's actually two answers for this one. Anyone? Opportunity. We do provide them with an opportunity. I guess that's like the third one that we offer with the O. Observe. Not quite, but I guess that could go under there too. Anybody else want to give it a shot? All right. So the O. So with us, for interpretation at the garden, we say that it's optional. The National Association for Interpretation says that it's organized, and we do both of those. But it allows visitors to select whether they want to take part in the experience or if they want to kind of self-explore or discover on their own kind of the various topics that we're trying to teach them at the garden. You guys have seen the interpretation plans. They are very organized. They have a framework on how to present a particular program like Pot a Plant. And it helps you remember the key points that you're trying to discuss when you're interacting with a visitor. And providing the option to engage or not engage with you just builds that stronger personal connection and lets kind of people design their visit, which is key as well in interpretation. All right, so the E in poetry stands for enjoyable, and as you can see, that little girl is probably having the time of her life. And it's not just the visitors that we want to have an enjoyable experience. We want you guys to also enjoy your time here at the garden and interacting with visitors. And typically modeling having a good time will also ensure that the visitors have a good time as well. And letting your passion show makes that stronger connection to the visitor and to the garden's mission. So those are all really key to interpretation as well. And then interpretation is thematic. So interpretation programs all have a theme. And this is different than a topic of conversation. A theme is very standardized by the National Association for Interpretation. It's a single sentence that's kind of your main takeaway point that you want visitors to take away from the interaction. And throughout any type of program or interaction, you kind of want to keep touching on that interpretive theme and concluding with that theme as well. And it helps just to organize your thought process, the conversation, and really get those visitors to take home the message you're trying to present. It does help to kind of organize your thoughts to build that conversation. Just kind of having a list of facts or topics can get confusing after a while, and that theme really helps to tie everything together. So second to last letter is R, and we mentioned that it's personable, and that kind of falls under relevant. You want to make the experience relevant to the visitors so that they feel invested in the conversation and engaged. The visitors tend to respond better when when what you're talking about is relevant to their personal experiences. So getting to know your audience is really important for interpretation to be successful. And then the last one, you guys make the difference. Interpretation, as the title suggests, there is an art and a science to it. Everybody has a different communication style, and you just kind of have to find what works best for you, and kind of what's the best way for you to relay information to visitors and make it personally interesting and relevant to their experiences. You develop your own bag of tricks, but you can also learn from other educators and kind of beg, borrow, and steal, as educators like to say, some of their techniques to help make those interactions successful. So, any questions about that? All right. With that acronym, going back to the theme where you have something that you can connect to throughout the conversation, ties also to conversation versus information. And every visitor is different, so that means that every interaction that you're going to have with a visitor can be different. And so be willing to share your knowledge, but also share the spotlight. So if you're asking a visitor a question, give them time to respond, and be flexible with kind of their attention spans, as well as kind of what level of involvement they want to have in the conversation, because some people want to be really involved and some people just want to listen. And then you can customize your vast knowledge of information and experience based on who's in your audience, as well as what their interests and attention span is. I do like this picture because I just remember Kyle having this very long conversation with this particular group. But this is a good snapshot of a wonderful interaction with visitors to the garden.
Where is this?
That's at the Pearl. I believe that's the Mark Twain program. So with this particular program, Kyle focused on developing information on different plants used to create fiber and cordage. And then he shares with visitors, having them feel the different types of cords and fibers and ropes that are there and try to figure out what plants those fibers come from. So knowing who your audience is very important to provide those personally relevant interactions. Figuring out why the visitors are at the garden, what motivate their visit today, and kind of customizing the interaction based on their interests. And there's a couple of things you can do, or a couple of common motivators that visitors come to any particular place to keep in mind. A lot of people just want to come because they're curious what the site offers. These visitors are typically the ones that have lots of questions about the particular space that they're visiting. Want to know like operational hours, any special events that are coming up, just trying to figure out what the garden has to offer and how often they want to come back. And these visitors like to explore, they like to see new areas. And you guys have probably seen this when you're working the visitor engagement station, or you're out on tours, or you're interacting with a new visitor who's new to the garden. What do you think another common motivator is for visitors to come?
Looking for answers?
Yes, sure. Go ahead. So what do you think another common motivator would be for visitors to come to the garden? Anyone?
Flowers.
See flowers, yeah. They do come to see flowers, but they also come to...
See the family.
Oh, exactly. You must have read my mind. Sharing their experience with others, to build those family memories. So I like this picture because it's multi-generational. I remember this group. It was some grandparents, the parents, and the children all together. They came for the Nature Connects exhibit, and they basically built like a group Lego creation. But that's a really good motivator for visitors. Is they have out-of-town guests that are coming, they have family that are coming in, and they want to have a shared experience with their friends and family. And that's a really strong motivator for any visitor to come to a new site, is to have those shared experiences and kind of become part of the place, and build that stronger connection. I'm sure you guys run across this, is that a lot of visitors will come for professional interests. These can be enthusiastic hobbyists or home gardeners, or they could be professionals in a horticultural or botanically based field. These are the visitors that come and have very technical questions whenever you're interacting with them. And they typically want to have like a lot of information, or they want to know where additional resources can be found on a particular topic. So they're always looking for tips or assistance to advance their professional expertise or spaces. And those are typically the people that we direct to the Center for Home Gardening, or to the horticulture or the science and conservation based on their interest. Part of building those family experiences is a lot of people want to be part of the place. So they want to say, they're the people that are that check into Facebook that state that I was at the Missouri Botanical Garden, or they take the selfies. These were SAGE volunteers that were part of their overnight experience, and they had asked me to share their photo from that overnight experience. But that being part of the place kind of ties to being sharing a memory with family and friends. But this can also take part in like the social network. Is if you get a particular selfie, sharing that with your friends on like Facebook or Snapchat, and showing that you participated in this world-class experience. Also, we have visitors that come for contemplation or restoration of self. So these people, these visitors come to kind of relax, explore, and kind of reflect on their experiences. These are the visitors that tend not to want to interact too closely with another person. They kind of want to just read through materials and kind of go at their own pace. And that's where signage plays a key role, so that if they don't want to interact face-to-face with a person, they also have another opportunity to learn more at their own pace through signage or through brochures or through the website and blog articles. And in general, those are the top motivators for visitors to come to a particular space. And so knowing that, we can kind of estimate or design our experiences based on those motivators. So getting to know your audience, you can check attendance notes and records and kind of see what the interactions were like for the day and how busy or how slow any particular day is. And looking at the customer base for the garden, you can kind of determine the general demographic of your visitors, as well as high peak visitation times. Also paying attention to visitor comments, the good and the bad, and adjusting your interpretation style based on that feedback. You can also identify characteristics of your audience on the spot, kind of by asking them questions, getting them involved in a conversation, and kind of learning what their knowledge, skill sets, interests are, and crafting the experience based on that. So there's a couple of things that you want to look for in your audience. You want to kind of assess their skill, knowledge, our ability level to make sure that the information you're providing them is relevant to them and is something that they can understand. You also want to look at your age of the audience. You're gonna interact differently with a group of adults than you will with a group of children. And age is key to and ties to the level of skills, knowledge, and ability levels within that group. Also, you can judge their interests. If they're interested in water plants, you're probably going to want to take them to the central access pools in the summer versus like the rock garden right outside the Temperate House. And also trying to understand what their needs or desires are. And that's where talking about them, if this is their first time to the garden, if they're a return visitor, that can help you assess what they're needing and what they're wanting to see during their visit. Also figuring out where they're coming from. You're going to have a different set of information for somebody who's a Missouri native than somebody who's coming from either like the East Coast or the West Coast or even from out of the country. So those are all things to look for in your audience, and you can use that information to then tailor your experience for the visitor. So how can you connect with your audience? We offer first-person visitor engagement and learning opportunities for all of our visitors. There's also educational self-exploration and discovery opportunities. That poetry acronym applies to all of those experiences that we offer. So there's a couple of things that we can include in general with all of our interactions. So what do you include? People like to listen to a good story. Many of you here have been part of the storytelling festivals, or you've seen a story time, and that can be a very big draw. But that can apply to all of your interactions. People like to listen to a good story. And they'll listen to facts if they can if they can relate to them. Very specific scientific facts can be difficult to understand depending on a person's ability and skills level. So making sure that the facts that you're relating are personally relevant and in terms that your audience can understand. People like to listen to inspirational, positive messaging, stuff that if you are discussing a problem, what are some solutions or what are some resources where they can learn more and take action to try to fix an issue. Pessimistic messaging, like when I was in school, there was a mix of like conservation messaging. Some of our professors were, while they would point out the problem, they'd also say, here's some ongoing research onto how to solve this. And others would say, if we don't fix this, this is going to be the end of this particular species, or this is going to be the end of this particular environment. And that can be the pessimistic messaging, depending on how it's crafted, can be overwhelming for an audience. The inspirational, positive messaging, focusing on solutions, tends to keep your audience engaged and encourage them to think creatively of solutions. And make sure that information you're providing impacts what is important to your audience, that they're able to relate and that they're able to see how this affects them in their everyday lives. So a lot of you are familiar with the first-person visitor engagement and learning. Many of you interact with visitors on a daily basis, either at large, at the information desk, on the public tours, in programs. And there's a lot you can do in any of those opportunities. All right, so for you guys, for interacting with visitors on a daily basis, what are some of the things that you found that helps you have a successful interaction? And I will take feedback from the audience.
A smile.
A smile, yeah? Anybody else?
Eye contact.
Eye contact, yes?
Don't talk too long, but they will say something.
Yes, yes, sharing the spotlight. Anyone else?
Asking what they're interested in.
Yes, yes. Anyone else? Yes, all of those are great ways to interact and make sure that that your interaction is successful. We mentioned smile, make yourself approachable, ask them why they're coming, and give them time to respond and to provide feedback. All of those are great ways to have a successful interaction with visitors. So, making yourself approachable, a smile is a great way to do that, as well as using open and comfortable body language. Make yourself seem welcoming, like you want to have a conversation with people, and typically people will come and have a conversation with you. Practice and preview, so practicing the program or the interactions that you want to have, watching other educators or interpreters and seeing how they interact with their audiences to see if you can incorporate any of their interpretive styles into your own. And learning from others' examples helps you to become a stronger interpreter. Personalizing the conversation, again, asking what their interests are, why they're visiting the garden, and relating to their interests. Also sharing the spotlight, so letting the visitors have their time to talk with you. Also being in an outdoor space, we do all realize that whenever an animal shows up, you know that spotlight's going to that animal, especially like the foxes, the hawks, the birds. So just being prepared and being flexible that whatever may come your way to help share the spotlight on your visitors as well as on any critters you might encounter. And for those that want to learn more, being able to suggest resources that they can look at when they're at home or after the tour or the program. This is the landing page for Missouri Botanical Gardens gardening help so for home gardeners, this is a great resource with like Plant Finder, fact sheets on pests or plants that do well in different environments. So that's a great resource for many home gardeners. And if you don't know the answer, that's always okay. Figuring out where to direct that visitor to learn more, where they can find that information is also key. And for me, it's a relief because then you don't have to be a walking encyclopedia and know everything, as long as you just know where to direct that type of visitor question. And lastly, but not least, have fun. I do love this picture of Sam because she was so excited that she was wearing her water boots to do the pond dip program. So this is just her really excited to present a program, and she had so much fun doing it. It was great to see. So that's kind of for the daily interactions. We also provide the informal education programs. Some of you provide formal educational programming. Tips for those programs are similar to the daily interactions. Remember the poetry acronym, engage the audience, and key for the programs themselves is making sure that people know about them so that they can, and where and when they're located so that they can interact with you. So I have a couple of pictures. This is a great one because all elements of poetry were being utilized in this program. That's the Nighttime Superheroes program in Children's Garden. And so getting visitors to learn about bats and cave systems. That program utilized all elements of poetry in it, and it's a great program. And then I like this picture because it provides multiple opportunities to engage visitors. You can see Becky providing a program, but there's also in front of her, there's a table that people can write down their feedback, and it provides another option if visitors don't want to engage face-to-face with a person. This picture I like because it has multi-sensory aspects to it. So again, provides additional stimulus for a variety of visitors to help increase the diversity of the audience. And then lastly, being sure to promote your program. So either having a sign at where you're meeting visitors, promoting it on the website. For Children's Garden, I don't know if you guys have seen, but we have that happening board. So here's the daily program that's happening, when it's happening, and where you can find us. And again, that all helps to pull visitors in and help them engage with the program and build that stronger connection. So a few resources for you guys if you want to learn more. I have the website for the National Association for Interpretation. Also, interpretation can apply to signage and digital media. So there's a couple of good examples on there. We also have the story maps listed as another engagement tool. And then lastly, I love this quote because it kind of embodies interpretation as a field. You don't want to drown people in information. You just want to spark their curiosity and encourage them to learn more. And if they're really interested, they will be empowered to learn and discover more on their own. But that's all I have. Do you guys have it? Oh. If you wanted to clap.
I love the quote.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I have a PDF of this presentation if you guys would like it. But if you have any questions, I'll be here and happy to answer them for you.